Thank you, Nick. Thanks for all those inspirational comments. Now the second one. And I do know this gentleman well too, and he's one of the great titans, and I'll talk about him in a moment. That particular person who is sitting right in front of me, of course, is Chris Hume. I've had the great pleasure over many years to be having chats with Chris, coffees, etc. And it took me quite a while to be able to get the full dump on Chris, because he's a very modest person. So I think it's probably pretty excruciating for him to be sitting there having to listen to people talk about him, but Chris, I'm going to do it. And by the way, I was told that Steve Smith was 92 a little while ago. Chris Hume is here today for a Lifetime Achievement Award for his outstanding entrepreneurial journey in the business of sport in Australia. Chris is the Director of Champion Data. He's a pioneer in the sports data and digital sports industry. He has delivered sustained success over more than 2 decades. He is always very humble and a private person, and always very kind. He's a family man with a beautiful family, and Chris has always loved sports. Today we celebrate and say thank you, Chris, for your leadership and the successful business you've built and the growth of your significant businesses in our industry. Chris has inspired, created jobs and reimagined the sports experience. He also helped put Australia's sports tech on the world map. His background: born in Melbourne, always had a love of building things and a lover of sport. He always had a passion for learning and listening. This would help him build great cultures in the years ahead and to foster innovation. Chris went to East Kew State Primary School for 7 years and then attended Scotch College. He's a proud double degree alumni at the University of Melbourne in both commerce and engineering, which means he's pretty good with numbers. Chris has recently showcased as a high achieving alumni at the University of Melbourne Gala dinner last month. One of his favourite countries in the world is Switzerland, where in 1997 Chris continued his education by completing his MBA from the prestigious IMD Business School in Lausanne. Chris started his professional career at the Ford Motor Company in Broadmeadows as an engineer for 5 years. The Hume family has a hard-working history in the pipe manufacturing industry in Australia. Hard work, fairness and creativity were ingrained into Chris as part of the DNA at a young age, and a toughness that would be needed in future years. Chris then moved to strategy consulting with Accenture in media and entertainment industry for 5 years, which would lay the foundations for what he and his team would achieve in the following decades. Chris's work in engineering and strategy consulting would form the foundation of his future legacy, having a real and lasting impact in sports in Australia over the next 20 years. The Sportal Australia story, part 1. Chris's first foray into sport and digital started with Sportal Australia from his kitchen table in 1999. And Nick started, of course, in his garage. So there are 2 great stories. Chris first worked with Les Murray to develop The World Game, a soccer website for SBS that soon became a valuable asset for SBS that still exists today. In 2002, Sportal was appointed by Telstra and the AFL to design, develop and provide content for and produce afl.com.au and all the AFL club websites for 5 years. Chris and his team then grew Sportal Australia to employ over 100 staff and to deliver digital services and content services to all the telcos and many sports bodies in Australia, including the 2006 Melbourne Commonwealth Games. Chris sold Sportal to Perform Group in 2009. He and his family then moved back to his beloved Switzerland, where they had a sabbatical for 15 months in the Swiss Alps. Good luck to you. That's all I can say. Part 2, the Champion Data story. Chris acquired Champion Data in 2006. For those who don't know, Champion Data is the specialist in sports data collection, statistics, analysis and visualisation across Australia. For example, the Essendon West Coast game tonight, which is not going too well for Essendon, unfortunately. Champion Data will capture and deliver every statistic for this game, approximately 5,000 of them, live to the broadcasters, the radio commentators, the coaches of both of the teams, all digital media, the scoreboards in their venues, the sports betting companies, the AFL, official AFL app and the newspapers. They also provide all the TV graphics on the Channel 7 broadcast as we speak. Today, some of their sports partners include the AFL, Netball Australia, New Zealand, Racing.com and the Asia PGA Tour. We will let Chris announce the news of this latest expansion win in the US. When Chris joined Champion Data in 2006, it was a small business with 8 employees. Today, after 13 years, they have 80 employees and 280 casual staff and still growing fast. He's done it again, 10 times Chris. Technically, Champion Data is among the most advanced live sports statistics and numerical analysis for leagues and rights holders in the world of sport. And today, Champion Data is working on data analysis, data visualisation, data analytics in sports media and sports broadcasting that is unquestionably amongst the best on earth. A fabulous story that started right here in Melbourne, Australia. Final words. Chris is affectionately known as the numbers guy, and I tell you, if he's an engineer and an MBA, that's a dangerous combo in AFL, public and international sports circle, and a very potent one. To us tonight, he's a great role model and a case study of Australian sports tech. How to follow your dreams, build great things, work with great people, and to have courage to work really hard for a long period of time to achieve your goals. Chris, congratulations on all you've done for our industry. We look forward to learning a lot more about your story and what you've learned along your journey as part of the accepting of tonight's Lifetime Achievement Award, Chris Hume.
Thank you, James, and thank you, John Persico, for that very long biography, but it was much appreciated. I've tried to keep under the radar for as long as I can, but after 20 years, I think this is the first time I've stood up and had an award or a speech or a recognition like this, so I do appreciate it. I do feel that I should accept the award for myself after 20 years for Chris Hume, but more importantly for Champion Data. I think my entire career is embodied in that company, and my life's work, certainly in the professional sphere, is embodied in Champion Data. And straight up the front, like Nick said, and like any good company, it really does come down to your staff and your people and your culture. And for example, Tim Kelsey, sitting next to me, is a director. He's been there longer than I have, and he could easily be taking this award. Tim is humble, hardworking, and consistent. So Tim, a round of applause for you. If I'm under the radar, Tim's underground, so good to hear his name. Anyway, I feel very privileged to have been able to carve out a niche and a living, and actually doing quite well more recently out of working in sport. It is really the thing of, that dreams are made of. And why do we get to do that? As Nick said, this didn't exist when we started out in the late 90s, and so James, the people from ASTN, and all the ecosystem launched Vic. That really does make a difference, and there's going to be one Champion Data, one Sporting Pulse. There's going to be 10, 20, 30 companies like us coming out of Victoria and Australia, and I really do believe that this is just the start of a really great industry, and we're really proud to be a part of it and feel very, very fortunate. The other thing that we all really need to acknowledge is sport is a rising tide. Like, we're all benefiting from the industry. So we really need to pay tribute to the great athletes, the great coaches, the great administrators, umpires. They put on the best show on earth. And really, without them, they create great content. And the reason the content's so valuable is you can't time shift it, talking about it. So you've got to watch sport live. It's so good. So that creates a lot of value in the broadcast play. Why do you think Fox pays billions of dollars for the rights in Channel 7 and Telstra? That's because it's such great content, because of all the people that create the show. And so what that means is there's so much money in sport now. When we started out, there wasn't that much money in it, but now it's a really rich industry, and that's because of the collective industry. So once again, I feel privileged to work amongst the entire industry, because that creates an ecosystem that we all live off. As Nick was saying, it's funny hearing a Lifetime Achievement Award when I feel like, personally, I'm still at half-time at the earliest, hopefully in the second quarter, and Sportal is still going, and more importantly, Champion Data is 21 years old today, but I feel like it's a 21-year-old child with its 21st birthday, just about to embark on the world. So, you know, I think that a lifetime achievement, if you're working in sport, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's not actually work. I love going to work every day, and the 80 people that work at Champion Data all love coming to work. They work long hours because they love what they're doing, and they're making a difference in the world. And I really don't want to just stand up here and bore you. So, as I did 2 degrees, and I always think that if someone's going to give you the time and attention, you've got to give them something more than a gratuitous speech. So I'm trying to work out what's interesting to tell you. So I've got an announcement which hasn't been announced yet. We're working on the press releases, so don't tell anyone outside this room. But, you know, after a patient build-up, you know, Champion Data went and did a UCLA program, which Bob Beaumont and James instrumental in getting, where they did a study for us in 2016. And we were patient with what came out of that study. We had to wait for the right opportunity, because I've got this saying, you've got to be patient, but then when you get the opportunity, you've got to be very impatient. You've got to work around the clock to make it work. So there's a new sport in America that's launching in February next year called the XFL. It's an American football with 95% of the rules are the same. They're just going to tweak it, make it more interesting, more free-flowing. It's been funded by Vince McMahon, $500 million in the startup kitty, so they're taking it very seriously. They've got a broadcast deal with Fox and ESPN to go into every home in America for the first season. It's launching in February next year, 6 days after the Super Bowl. And 2 days ago, the XFL searched the whole world. They wanted to have a stats partner and a content provider that was dynamic. And after looking all through America and Europe, they settled on Champion Data as their stats supplier. Thank you. And John didn't know that was going, but yeah, the reason they chose us is because we had a team of people fly over there. They looked at what we've done with the AFL. The Telstra tracker, who was mentioned by Cisco, by Karen, that's the Champion Data project, working very closely with Telstra and Catapult, who helps collect the data. It took 4 years to get that project off the ground. We had to get the Players Association on board, that's enshrined in the collective bargaining agreement. We had to get Telstra on board, all the clubs, the AFL, all the players. Then we had to work out the tech. And so then we brought it to life, and everyone loves it. So that's just one example that the XFL sport that we've done, and no other sport in the world collects player tracking data for every player live and publishes it on the official app. That's another world first that Champion Data has actually delivered. No other professional sport in the world has been able to achieve that yet. So that's an example of us as an industry collaborating and delivering a great result. So that's our journey. We're also working in Asia. We had Sanjob from Star India, who's also requested that we go to Mumbai as soon as we're finished with the XFL to go and pitch to do a new sport, Kabaddi, which is now beginning cricket on some broadcasts. So we're in discussions with them. And so again, it's about being patient, waiting for the right opportunity to come, and when it comes, working 24/7 to make sure you get it. So that's our culture, and that doesn't happen with just me. That's the team that we've built, and they've all lent in, and they're all doing that. So Champion, we're dispatching 5 of our staff to Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut next week, and we'll start that journey, employing another 30 people over there part-time as well. And that's really it. So look after your best staff, that's really important, and look after your best customers. Without Telstra, without Fox, without Channel 7, without the clubs, without the betting companies, we would be nothing. So look after your best staff and look after your best customers. Business is pretty simple. I didn't need to do an MBA, it costs a lot of money to learn that, but 20 years, that's it. And also, this is a personal one. I hate being told what to do, so I never tell anyone what to do. Because if you tell someone what they want to do and they don't want to do it, they do a terrible job anyway. So give them information, guide them, make them realise that that's the answer, and then we all buy in and we go and deliver a vision like that. So I'll go and finish off by saying, like anyone, I had a wonderful upbringing in East Kew with two parents that were very supportive. So I'd like to thank them, my parents, my partner, my children. If I knew Nick was going to bring his family, I would have brought mine as well. But I'll tell them all about it. We've got a great family, both at home, and as mentioned, my colleagues, nothing would happen without them. So I'll now pop my head back underground for another 20 years, and we'll see what happens after that. So thanks very much.
Chris, very much. I'll hand over to Lockie in a sec. I've always said this to a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've dealt with over the last few years. It's about moments of courage or a lifetime of regrets. So I think it's very important that when you've got the opportunity, you go very hard at it and you do it smart, you build a great business model, put a great team around you, make sure it scales, and you've got a fairly good chance with Australian sports tech background to succeed anywhere. Thank you very much.